The transfer portal continues to blow up for the Seminoles, and attrition from his roster, and including three legacy players on Florida State's team. Florida State getting hit pretty heavily on both sides of the ball, but this time for Florida State looking into what happens to be some experienced players, some that didn't get to see the field a ton, and some that were dealing with injuries throughout the beginning of their career. We'll start off first with number one name, Marvin Jones Jr. As we know, Florida State was heavily in his recruitment before he eventually picked up Georgia and going to play for Kirby Smart. Spent a few years there and then ended up hitting the transfer portal and landing Florida State, to where he played this last season. Wasn't the greatest of a season for Marvin Jones Jr. As we know, son of the FSU legend Marvin Jones Sr. Shade Tree, one of the best college football linebackers in the history of the game. You know, there's a lot of expectations for Marvin Jones Jr. to come in and play a vital role in Florida State's pass rush. You know, what you lost last season with Jared Verse. You were hoping to maybe pair up Patrick Payton with Marvin Jones Jr. to create some kind of passing press rush attack there on the defensive side of the ball, and it just wasn't the case for Marvin Jones Jr. this season. He played in 11 games, started 9 of those games. He recorded 25 tackles, 6 tackle for losses, 4 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. And, you know, just looking throughout the whole entirety of the season, there was times where I was wondering if Marvin Jones Jr. was out there on the field, to be completely honest with you. And, you know, Florida State overall, after a 2-10 season, you know, Florida State's going to see a lot of these departures, but I don't think this one comes too much of a shock, just going off of what Florida State's bringing in with Tony White coming from Nebraska and the way that he runs his defenses. And overall, you know, Florida State needs production. They need a big time jump going into this 2025 season. And I'm just not sure if Marvin Jones Jr. was ever going to get to that role in Tallahassee. So he's entering the transfer portal. This is now the 15th player. This is being filmed on Wednesday afternoon. So who knows what this number could go to, but as of right now, he is the 15th player that entered the transfer portal. Also, too, another legacy guy in the same room as well, and that defensive end room is Lamont Green Jr., or for nickname Boots. Lamont Green Jr. did not see a whole ton of playing time throughout his career in Tallahassee, as we know, coming from his dad with Lamont Green Sr., who was a former FSU linebacker team captain and 1999 national champion. He only played in 2 games over the 2 seasons as a reserve player. He signed in 2023 as a 4-star recruit, and he's expected to have 3 years of eligibility. You know, one thing, going back and watching when I was in Tallahassee, watching some of these recruits come in, and a guy like Lamont Green Jr. just flashed to you just because of the speed that he had coming off of the edge. And, you know, you could just tell you had the genetics from his father. But, you know, the biggest thing for them was, you know, trying to put on some pounds, trying to put on some muscle, trying to put on some weight, because he did come in as more of a thinner sized defensive end. And Florida State worked on doing that, which he was growing and putting on some good size and some healthy size. But injuries definitely played a vital part in not allowing him to take that next step as being a guy that could produce for you and get in and jump into that rotation at the defensive end room, which was, you know, a pretty heavy at the time, as we're seeing now, attrition coming from Florida State, and definitely last year, a lot more bodies in that room. But, you know, as we speak, Florida State holds 4 scholarship players in that defensive end room, including Jaden Jones, who's a redshirt senior, Patrick Payton, as we know, is a redshirt senior. Interested to see what his decision is going to be here soon, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's going ahead and moving forward with his career and maybe taking that route that we've seen Joshua Farmer and Daryl Jackson take. Also, too, in this defensive end room is Aaron Hester, who's a redshirt junior, and Dede Holmes, who is also actually a redshirt freshman. There are a couple signees coming in, though, for this room, including a Jesse Harold, as we know, that just signed with Florida State, and Tylon Lee, to where Florida State jumped ahead and was able to win one over Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. Then there's a pair of brothers that are coming in, that are ranked as 3 stars on 247 Sports with Daryl Desser and Mandrell Desser, both of those guys coming in. 2, before we move on here, Florida State did lose one more legacy guy from this roster, and this time we're going to flip over to the offensive line with Julian R. guy that I personally really high on. And, speaking about these guys and just the time that I got to spend with them at practices, you see them on the field at games, see them on the sidelines. These guys are all about, you can tell they're no-blooded. They love this university. They grew up as fans. They were surrounded by it when they were growing up, and you would see them on the sidelines and a lot of celebrating, trying to get the crowd hyped and all that kind of stuff. These are some good young men, and things just did not work out. And I think going over here to Julian Armella, talking about him specifically, he's a redshirt sophomore. He spent most of his time in Tallahassee as being, more of a reserve role scout team kind of guy. He started off at that left tackle position, and then we saw him move over into the guard position this last year. And we saw a lot of rotations of some guys moving to different position groups. I mean, that's something that Alex Atkins always had brought to the table, is that there is going to be a heavy amount of rotation where some guys are going to be hybrids and understand multiple roles. And I think more specifically, though, Julian Armella, given that shot there at the guard position, and just, things did not work out there. He had 6 games in 2023, 4 games in 2022, and was never making the depth chart. He signed with Florida State in 2022 as a 4-star recruit, being out Florida, LSU, and Alabama. As we know, the father of him, Enzo Armella, played for FSU's 1993 national championship run. He's going to have 2 years of eligibility remaining. Looking at Florida State's offensive line right now, that experience, that heavy amount of experience that we've seen in years past, is definitely going to drop down a little bit. There's going to be a lot more of some youngsters coming, not counting in what Florida State's going to be bringing in the transfer portal specifically. But you've got Jacob Rizzi, who's a redshirt senior, Richie Leonard, former UF transfer offensive lineman, who's a redshirt senior. You got Bryson Estes, redshirt senior, Andre Otto, who's a redshirt sophomore, Lucas Simmons, redshirt sophomore, Manasi Atiti, who is a redshirt freshman, John Daniels, redshirt freshman, Ty Helton, redshirt freshman, and Jaden Todd, who is a redshirt freshman. You do have a few guys coming in as well, with Mario Nash Jr., a 4-star offensive lineman, and 3-star Sean Perrette. So a handful of guys here, legacy players on this roster, and you just wish things could have worked out a little bit better. And, who knows, the next step for them and where they end up going on their path, it might end up working out better. But yeah, definitely some interesting losses here for Florida State. If you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe so you get notified every time we release a new video. We just hit 15,000 subscribers, so thank you a ton for supporting us, and stay tuned for the next episode.